Good evening, everybody. We're just going to wait a few seconds to let everyone join us. Good evening, good evening. I can see everyone flying into the webinar now. We're going up and up and up. Great. Good evening. If you're just joining us, hello and welcome. Good evening. We've got our hellos coming in from Jane and from Trish. Hello to both of you. Good evening. Evening all, we're just still waiting, gonna let a few more people come in. Just still can see our participants ticking up a little bit, so let's give it a few more seconds. Good evening to Adrian and Elizabeth. Hello all. Okay, so I think we've probably just about got everybody. I'm sure a few more will join, but we will get cracking and let everyone catch up as we get started. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to another online Naturetrek webinar, part of our Winter Roadshow series. This is the 13th Roadshow that we've done so far this winter through a very dark, wet January and now into February. And this evening we'll be taking you to explore our range of go slow holidays. For those that have joined us before, maybe on a few occasions, I'm not your usual host, Sarah. She's got another well-earned night off tonight. My name's Kerrie Porteous and I'm an operations manager at Naturetrek. I've been with Naturetrek for a little over 8 years now, and I look after a whole range of tours from Sweden to Switzerland, down to Madagascar, some of our cruises, all over really, and a range of go-slow holidays, conveniently for tonight. Normally at this time of year we'd be out on the road visiting various hotels around the country, meeting you out in person. Whilst we love to see you face to face, and we can't wait to be able to do that again soon, it has been great to be able to offer these webinars instead, because we've seen so many of you join us. In fact, I think we've reached far more of you through the webinars than we would have done in person. So that's been really great. In fact, our webinars have been so popular that we've extended the series now. So if you pop onto our website, you'll see we've added some new dates through to the end of March. So do have a look, see if there's anything else that appeals. Feel free to sign up for more. Do join us over the next month or so. If there's any destinations that we haven't covered that you would be really keen to hear about, then do just drop us an email and let us know. You can always reach us info@naturetrek.co.uk. That will help us shape our plans for the future. So do let us know if you think we're missing on something. So we've got a bit over 260, 270 households with us so far this evening. A few more still ticking in, so that's great. It's lovely to see so many of you. Thank you for joining us. Anyone that is new to Zoom, brand new this evening, then please don't worry, we can't see you and we can't hear you. So if you need to go make a cup of tea, you can just go for it. It's just us as panelists that are in the spotlight tonight. We do have a chat function, which I can see some people using now. That's fabulous. So please do feel free to use the chat function during the evening. You can send messages just to us as panelists, or you can include all attendees. It's nice to include everyone. If you've got something to say that you think others might be interested in, something on the tours, any comments, then that's great. We understand it can be a bit distracting, particularly on iPads, if the messages are flashing up whilst someone's speaking, presenting. You can mute it using, I think there's a little bell icon. So if you're finding that's happening to you, then on the chat function itself, you just need to mute it. And then check back during the interval and then during the question and answer session at the end as well. So there is a specific question and answer function on this webinar, and we'd encourage you to put any questions that you have in that Q&A box. That allows us to keep track of them during the evening. We can type out some answers as we go, but it also lets us find them and we'll wrap up at the end. So we've got about 25 minutes at the end of the evening, and we'll answer any outstanding questions, any more that you have at that point. You can ask us anything about the tours, other go slow trips, travel industry, the pandemic, whatever it might be, you're very welcome to throw anything at us. If you are on our mailing list in the last couple of weeks, you'll have received your lovely shiny new brochure. That will have landed on your doormat with a big thump. So I hope you've enjoyed browsing it. If anything has piqued your interest, then feel free to ask us more about it. Give us a call, drop us an email, pop onto our website. There's loads of information on there, tour reports, tour itineraries and all sorts. If you haven't received a brochure, you're not on our mailing list, but you would like to, then please again, just drop us an email, info@naturetrek.co.uk, and we'll get one out to you this week. If you think you're on our mailing list already, but haven't received a brochure, then I suspect at this point something has gone wrong, because I think you should have probably received your brochure by now. So again, just let us know and we'll have a look into that for you. So tonight I'm delighted to be joined by two of my colleagues from the office, Andy Tucker, give us a wave Andy, our general manager, and fellow operations manager Dan Lay. So they'll both be speaking a little bit later on this evening. Now, in a slightly unusual turn of events, you've got me as your host and as your first presenter. So I am going to hand over to myself rather than introduce the concept for the evening being Go Slow. I'll do that during my talk. So I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to me now all the way through until the interval. So I'll say goodbye to Dan and Andy for a bit. I'm going to share my screen and then I'll introduce all about Go Slow and we'll get cracking. So bear with me one moment, please. Right, let's get going. So this evening is all about Naturetrek Go Slow holidays. So we launched these around the end of 2016, sorry. And they were the initiative of one of our founders and directors, Marianne Mills, who was really keen for us to be able to offer tours that still involved fantastic wildlife watching with our expert naturalist guides, as you'd expect any Naturetrek trip to involve, but at a more relaxed pace so that you could basically have a more relaxing holiday at a gentle pace, but without feeling that you're going to miss out on anything. Of course, all of our trips, you can opt in and opt out during the week. Often you could just take a day off. You might head back to the minibus earlier. You might take an afternoon off. But not all of them are designed for that to be necessarily straightforward. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And I know a lot of people worry about missing out, that if you don't go out on a particular day, then that's it. You know, you're going to miss the highlight wildlife event of the week and regret it for the rest of your life. We don't want that to happen. So the idea behind Go Slow was to create a more relaxing trip, but where you're not going to miss out on anything. It's all designed with flexibility at a gentler pace, a bit more time off. So we came up with a set of criteria that we like to tick off for all of our Go Slow holidays. Now, it is difficult. Not every single holiday will tick every single one of these criteria. Sometimes we just don't have any choice of flights and things like that. But where possible, we are aiming to have single centre holidays. And I think all but one of them are. Cyprus is a 2-centre holiday, but all the others, I believe, are 1 single centre holidays. We are aiming to use direct flights, using middle of the day, sensible, sociable flight times, not having to be at Gatwick for 4 AM check-ins, that sort of thing. We are looking to use lovely, comfortable hotels, 3-4 star quality hotels, ideally with a swimming pool, serving really nice meals, good standard. And we're offering leisurely paced walks on gentle terrain. So, you know, a few kilometres, maybe a kilometre at a time, or a couple, but, you know, making it easy for you to turn back once you've had enough. Lots of flexibility built in. And aiming for roughly about 6 hours or so in the field each day. So perhaps 9:30 till 3:30 with a picnic lunch, or we might go out in the morning, have a really long leisurely taverna lunch, a little bit more, and then back to the hotel. Or we might have a morning excursion, a long break back at the hotel during the middle of the day, and pop out again in the afternoon, that sort of thing, but definite time just to relax built into the programme. Comfort stops are imperative. They are on all of our tours, but there are some places where we visit where you just have to be prepared for bush stops. Whereas on our Go Slow holidays, we really thought about it, and we are making sure that there's a decent cafe or even a petrol station or something in the morning and in the afternoon, so that no one has to dive behind a bush at any point. And then plenty of time to relax, to read, to paint, potter around, go for a swim, enjoy the spa at the hotel, that sort of thing, whatever it is that you'd like to do. So that's the idea and the concept behind it. Quite a lot of our clients will joke on the phone saying, oh, are these designed to stop us all dropping off the main list when we get too old and doddery? I mean, that applies to some people, I'm sure. We don't want you to feel like you can't travel with us. We always want there to be a holiday that you can join and join to the full. But also it appeals to people, perhaps couples, where one is a lot more into natural history than the other, and they want to travel together, but one of the pair might find a whole day 9 till 5 and then back for quick change and checklist and whatnot, just a bit much really. So they can enjoy a little bit more of a relaxing day and then have some time back at the hotel to do their own thing in the afternoon. Partners with slightly different interests, that sort of thing. So there's a wide appeal here. And over the last few years, we've created Go Slow holidays in all sorts of destinations. So around the British Isles, all New Jersey, Hampshire, Dorset, lots of them across Europe. It's probably the main area really that we're going on our Go Slow trips. So to the Swiss Alps, the Austrian Alps, Cyprus, and Greece, to France, to Italy, plenty around Spain, and he'll talk about a few Spain ones later. And then we do a few long haul trips as well. So Trinidad at the Azorite Centre, India looking for tigers, to Kenya's Masai Mara, and to South Africa's Cape as well. So there are, and we'll come to this evening, there are also tours that we offer which are very suitable for Go Slow, but are not Go Slow holidays. They were already in existence, and we'll mention a few of those actually through the evening as well. So just because something's not Go Slow doesn't mean that if you don't want to walk so far or want a bit of downtime, you can't join us. In terms of walking, I guess any Naturetrek tour with an A grading is pretty straightforward and never going to be too far at any one time. But yeah, there are a few trips which perfectly fit the Go Slow criteria, but were already in existence and we've just never felt the need to rebrand them. So we'll make mention of a few of those as well this evening. I decided that probably the best way to give you a really good flavour of what the Go Slow programme offers is to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour of several of our Go Slow holidays. So for the next half an hour or so, I am going to take you, I think, to 7 different countries where we operate Go Slow trips. The first couple are ones where we have basically tweaked an existing trip to make a slower version of it. Then the next couple are brand new Go Slow destinations where we specifically found an area and thought this is perfect for Go Slow. Let's do a trip there. Then a couple of long haul tours, and then we're going to finish it with one of those dubious ones I mentioned, which is not officially Go Slow, but it does fit very nicely into the criteria. So let's get going. I'm going to kick off in Sweden and our Go Slow in Sweden holiday. So this is a classic example of a trip where we have tweaked an existing popular tour to make it more suitable for the Go Slow programme. We've run a 4-day, 3-night spring weekend in Sweden for many years, Sweden in Spring, which is based in Svartedalen, the Black River Valley, so where that little red blob is. I can point it out. Just here. So we're probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours drive from Stockholm. So it's a nice direct flight, lots of options with BA and Scandinavian Airlines. So we can go for a late morning flight out and an afternoon flight back. Easy transfer, birding along the way. And we spend the tour in this same area in the Svartedalen, Black River Valley area. Slightly quirky hotel, it's kind of like a small village. But it's nice and it's got a lovely heated pool. It's a spa hotel. So, and we've designed some time in so you can actually enjoy the hotel. Whereas on our normal Sweden in Spring weekend, because it never gets dark and there's so much to see, you just birding the whole time. And I know that can be quite tiring. Having co-led a equivalent trip, I know it is very tiring, in fact. So on this trip, we are going out in the morning. We have a nice morning out in the field, doing lots of lovely birding. We'll have maybe a picnic lunch or back for a long leisurely lunch back at the hotel, and then have some downtime and go out again a bit later. And Sweden is a really lovely place to visit in the springtime. It's gorgeous, it's really quiet, you don't see many people. You just explore the lakes and the hedgerows and the all over in search of some really lovely birds. So, for example, Ortland bunting, common rosefinch, lots of thrush nightingales singing away. At evening, you can go around and listen for spotted crates booming. Of course, the cuckoo here on the right. I enjoy cuckoos in Sweden. There's lots of stories about them, about how if you hear one before breakfast, you'll go mad. And the cure for this is to drink vodka. Lots of cranes as well, lots of warblers to go and look for. So you've got a great reed warbler, the back shrike, and plenty of raptors too. So overhead we'll be looking for osprey and also for marsh harriers, white-tailed eagles, honey buzzards, and goshawks. So there's an awful lot to go on. There's probably two key reasons though for visiting Sweden in the springtime, and one of which is the woodpeckers. So very close to where we stay, there was quite a bad forest fire a few years ago. It was quite scary at the time and quite worrying, of course. The result, though, now is very, very good for woodpeckers. So there's an area that is aptly called the burnt forest, and it's brilliant habitat. So we'll go there one day, look for these chaps, for black woodpecker, got lesser spot up there, and three-toed. In fact, there's 7 species of woodpecker possible. So along with these 3, we might see greater spot, green and grey-headed woodpecker, plus wryneck. And we'll often see at least a couple of the rarer ones on our trips in the springtime. And then the second reason to go to Sweden in spring is the owls. So fantastic possibilities of seeing Ural owl, and we're very likely to, perhaps with chicks. We will likely see tawny owl, short-eared owl. We could see Tengmann's owl. They're quite cyclical, depending on the vol population each year, so normally a 3-year cycle. But even on a low bad vol year, you have a chance, but on a good vol year, you've got a really good chance. And then one of the loveliest things to see on a Sweden in spring trip is a pygmy owl. So on the go slow, we'll make sure we get back in the afternoon, back to the hotel, give you some really nice downtime, because these guys are much easier to spot when it's starting to go dark. So we can have a nice leisurely dinner, and then for those that want to, we'll head out again a little bit later in the evening, and you can hear the peeping in the treetops and head out looking for pygmy owls. And then the pièce de résistance of any trip to Sweden in the springtime is the possibility of seeing this absolute beauty, great grey owl. And there's known sites close to where we're staying. So even if we're going out after dinner, we don't have to go far. Sometimes it's just a 10-minute drive, and we're in habitat and where we know we've got a really good chance of seeing a great grey owl. So the second trip I'm going to mention, which is another good example of a tweaked existing tour, is our Go Slow in the Swiss Alps holiday. Now, we've been operating tours to Wengen in the Lauterbrunnen Valley for probably 20 years or so, where the botany in the springtime is absolutely incredible. It's one of my, probably is my favourite place to visit in the world, and that is saying something. But it does involve quite a bit of walking. You're in the Swiss Alps, so obviously there is some walking to be done. Most of the villages around here are car-free, which is lovely, and you have a transport pass, but you obviously need to be out on your feet. And on our standard alpine flowers Swiss Alps week, we're walking maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 miles a day, so the decent amount of walking. Our Go Slow version is based in Mürren, which is obliquely across the valley from Wengen. And it's been designed, still with some walking involved, that has to happen in the Swiss Alps, but with a much more inherent sense of flexibility for those that just don't think they can walk that far, don't want to walk that far, want to take their time, want to enjoy the Swiss village as well. So this photo, whilst I took it when I was on our Wengen tour, is in Mürren, just below, just above where we stay. And this is our background for the week. So the incredible mountains of the Eiger, the Munch and the Jungfrau, looking from left to right. So the Eiger is the ogre, the Munch is the monk, and the Jungfrau is the young girl. So the monk's protecting the young girl from that awful ogre. One of the key differences is that we don't take the train to get to Mürren, which we would do on our other Swiss tours. Obviously taking the train in Switzerland is lovely and it's a gorgeous scenic journey, but I know some people do find the 3 changes a little bit stressful, especially with luggage and worrying about connections. So we get a coach transfer from the airport down to the base of the valley, and then we'll take the cable car or the train just up from there to Mürren itself. And we're staying in a really lovely hotel. I've not put a photo of the front of it on because I think it's one of the uglier hotels in Mürren, but it is a great location and really nice inside, and we're well looked after. So it's a good base for the week. As I said, still some walking involved. This is if you go up the cable car behind, we're close to the hotel, the Almendhübel, and then you can walk from there. But whilst on our standard trip, you'd be walking all the way basically back down to the valley and train back to Wengen from there. On this one, there's lots of options. You can just go up, you can have a pot around and go back down again on the cable car. You can go for a shorter walk and get a train back. We can go for a longer walk and get the train back. And each day really is designed with that sort of flexibility involved. We have transport passes and train passes and the like for the week. So if you want to just do a bit and go back but not feel like you're missing out, then that's possible. And along this walk, there's loads to see, some really nice orchids, round-headed orchid here and fragrant orchid. It's a good spot for marmots. You can probably hear them whistling and then seek them out. We will head up the Schinnige Platte to the famous Botanic Garden one of the days, taking this incredible old cogwheel mountain railway. I think the journey itself is one of the highlights really. And then once we get up there, you can have a really nice pot around the Botanic Garden at your leisure. Spend the whole morning, a whole day there really, but you can also go for a nice walk, enjoy this view, have a good pot around. We'll head over to Wengen one of the days and go up the Mannlichen cable car, and here we're botanising underneath the north face of the Eiger. So you can just see the turf here is absolutely filled to the brim with gentians and primulas and ranunculus. We'll be looking for these beautiful trumpet gentians. Lots of beds of spring gentian. This is Gentiana verna. In terms of primulas, so the big yellow one there is a bear's ear, Primula auricula. The little purpley one at the top is Primula farinosa, the bird's eye primrose, and lots of pasque flowers too, the bottom right, alpine pasque flowers. And meadows just filled with Porteous europaeus, glow flowers, one of my absolute favourites. I just think they look like little balls of sunlight sparkling as you go about your walk. And I just wanted to include this slide because this made me chuckle. When I first started putting this trip together, I was in contact with a couple of guys from the local tourist office who were really keen that the group should do this thrill walk. I kept saying to them, no, this is a go slow holiday. No one's going to want to do a thrill walk. You're mad, but it's included in the cable car pass. And they're like, oh, just get out and have a look and everything. So yeah, sure enough, our tour leader took our first go slow group there, and they absolutely loved it. They're all out. There's all these ropes that you can walk, and you're basically hanging off the side of a cliff, and they all went for it. So anything can happen on a go slow holiday. So the next couple of trips I'm going to talk about are ones that were specifically designed as go slows, and they're not based on any sort of existing holiday, and they've come to us because someone's alerted us to the area, or we've been out there for ourselves and visited, or perhaps been in touch with the hotelier, and we just thought that would make a really nice go slow holiday. And this particular one was one of our clients who's been going there, I think, for about half his life, and called us up and said, this is a stunning area, Naturetrek should go there. So I went out and had a look, and I really thought it was, yeah, he was totally right, but in particular, perfect for a go slow trip. And this is in the Austrian Alps. So just south of the border, we fly into Munich on this one. So nice, easy flight to Munich. We pick up a couple of buses, and then we drive, it's probably a couple of hours south, past Garmisch, famous, and then just over the border. And then we're here in the Zugspitze arena, so just in the base of the Zugspitze, which is Germany's highest mountain. And it is stunning. I recce'd it for my husband the autumn before last. So it's all a bit autumnal here, but we actually will go in the springtime on the actual trips. and it's gorgeous. The scenery is amazing. We stay in a really lovely hotel. This is the Alpen residence, nice big rooms, lovely staff, nice pool and spa area. They do afternoon tea timed when you might get back from your day's walk. They have a happy hour at the same time. It's a really nice setup. Quite a botanical trip. So there's some interesting things to see. I'm going to thank David Arkley for these photos. He's the one that put me onto this place and supplied me with a few pictures, because although we were meant to go last year for the first time, sadly, it's all got cancelled by COVID. So I'm not received my usual haul of pictures back from the tour leaders just yet. But this is a lovely little Camorchis alpina, a really special little orchid that we can find during our explorations. Broadleaf marsh orchid, it's a lesser butterfly orchid, red helleborine. We've got a good spot for lady slipper orchid, so depending on the season, but probably from sort of mid-June onwards, we've got a good chance of seeing them in flower, which is always really lovely. We'll do some birding too. In the forest we might find nutcrackers, firecrests, all sorts of things. One of the days we'll try and pick a really clear day to head up the Zugspitze itself. It's a good cable car journey, it's quite an exciting one. Right to the top of Germany's highest mountain. So we go up the Austrian side, but you can cross the border. And up there we might find the likes of snowfinch perhaps. We might find alpine accentor. Not a lot of botany going on up there, it's a bit too high, but some amazing views. And all through the week, it's been, again, designed with a really built-in sense of flexibility. So in addition to having the spot of our minibuses, we have a transport card for the Zugspitze area, which covers the buses, the cable cars, the chairlifts, everything. So you can always get back to the start. You can come out for the morning and head home by yourself if you want to go back home with others. We'll have 2 tour leaders anyway, so we can do a slightly longer walk and a slightly shorter walk. And the whole thing's been designed so that you can really do as much or as little as you want during the week away. Then the other sort of brand new trip that put together recently is Go Slow on Greece's Pelion Peninsula. And again, this just came from a conversation with the owner of the hotel, really, this is basically the only nice 3-star-ish hotel in Pelion. And had a good chat with her, went out and in the end I accidentally gate crashed a German botanical week and joined them on some of their excursions, and discovered I think it'd be another really great Greystow holiday. So I hadn't really heard of Pelion before, but this is where we are, just here. So that's island is Skiathos, if you know Skiathos, and Volos is here. So we're midway basically between Thessaloniki and Athens. And although there are flights to Volos in the sort of peak summer, there's not during the springtime or the autumn when we might be going. So we fly into Thessaloniki, and then it's a really easy, straightforward transfer down here past Mount Olympus. And we stay in the Lagovaxia Hotel for the week. And what I really liked about this particular area is the Calderini. So these are old mule paths which have all been restored. There's a local society, the Friends of the Calderini, who've dedicated a lot of time and effort and money, no doubt, into restoring these old mule tracks. So really for the week, we have a coach, and our coach driver can drop us at the start of one of these lovely paths, and then you're just having a lovely stroll through these flower-filled meadows and olive groves, through all this cistus Mediterranean scrub. Wherever you go, you pretty much always have a gorgeous view of the sea and the islands surrounding you. Lots of sages and cistus and gladiolus and all sorts to look for along the way. Most of these paths are like downhill, but not like bad for the knees downhill, just gently strolling down to the sea, really. And again, because we've got the coach, we'll design them so they're one way, and you get picked up, or you just wander down, have a lovely long Taverna lunch, get picked up, and then we'll do something else in the afternoon or head back to the hotel. One of the days we'll visit the North Pelion Orchid Centre. So in the hills above and the North Pelian area. I think about 52, I think it is, orchids of species of orchid have been identified. So we're not going to see 52 on our day there, but we'll take a day to go up, have a look. And this is one of the ones you might find. This is an Ophrys reinholdii, lovely green-winged orchid. Lots of things, Provence orchids in the woods, all sorts really. Oh, let's get on that side. And wherever you go, there's lovely beaches. Probably on this one, although the pool, the hotel does have a pool, it'll be quite chilly in April. It's not heated. I'd go in, but not everyone would. The sea might feel similarly chilly, but I'd always encourage a good cold dip. But yeah, beautiful beaches everywhere we go as well. So we're going to go long haul next, and I'm going to take you to Kenya's Masai Mara to give you a flavour of what you can do if you want to do a long haul, go slow holiday. So on this trip, we fly to Nairobi. It's a daytime flight, arrives sort of late evening, so we'll stop overnight in Nairobi. And then rather than driving down, which on all of our other trips to Kenya, you're either going by somewhere else and ending up at the Masai Mara, this one we're going to fly. So you don't do the 7-hour overland journey to get there. And the next morning we'll transfer to the local Wilson airport and then fly down to the Mara. We met by our expert naturalist guides down there, and then that's our base for 7 nights. So we stay at Base Camp Mara. It's a really nice permanent tented camp. It's actually just outside the park. It's just near the Talek Gate, so it's got very good access. And actually this is the Masai Mara. So you're looking across the river, Talek River, right over into the Mara, and gorgeous views across the plains from there. The camp's got really lovely gardens, so there'll be plenty of downtime during the day to go birding, to have a pot around. We'll get up in the morning, go out for a little explore, sit and have a cup of tea back near your tent, whatever it is you want to do, gin and tonic. And whilst it's a camp, it's a nice type of camp. So good, big, permanent tents, lovely beds, proper linen, wardrobes, places to put your stuff, which is always quite handy really, isn't it? Proper ensuite bathrooms, proper flushing toilet, shower, the lot. So it's camping, but it's the nicest sort of camping that you can do. These are the vehicles that we're using. They're pop-top vehicles, so they give you good views, sliding windows, so you can open them fully, put your head out the roof. And the general setup is that we'll go out early in the morning on our early morning safari drives, have a really good look round, come back for breakfast or brunch, have plenty of downtime during the middle of the day, and then we'll head out again in the late afternoon, staying out till dusk. Really typical safari really. If you want to do a full day out in the Mara so you can get a bit further, then we can arrange that as well. Not compulsory. You'll still see plenty of wildlife if you don't do that, but some people want to, and you're very happy to arrange that if you'd like to. And in terms of wildlife, well, big cats, of course, we'll be looking for lions. We should definitely be seeing lions. It's a great spot for cheetah, so hopefully we'll see cheetahs along the way. All the big game, of course, African elephants, giraffes, lots of game. Some really lovely birding. So as well as around the lodge, obviously when we go out as well, we'll be lots of birding. So we've got lilac-breasted roller. This is a little Azumbiro barbet. Gorgeous long-legged secretary bird. Plenty of raptors too. This is a steppe eagle. And I've just given you just a flavour of what there is to see. There's the Masai Mara is one of the most incredible game reserves in Africa. So spending 7 days there is really not a problem. And then the other Go Slow tour we do in Africa is in South Africa, our Wildlife of the Cape Go Slow holiday. And here we're based in Simonstown. This is the Whale View Manor, aptly named, and looks over False Bay. It's a really lovely base, good food. We'll eat here a couple of evenings. It's a very good breakfast. We'll always eat our lunch out, and then we'll explore some of the local restaurants as well during the evenings. Lots of really good seafood, sort of South African meats and gamey foods and veggie options. Don't worry if your veggie, do not worry. But this is where you're staying, and this is the proximity to the beach and the views. Really stunning place to stay. And then from your hotel room, this is taken from one of the rooms, you can look right over to the other side of False Bay. And these rocks around here can be absolutely covered in Cape cormorants. They breed out on the cliffs, but the non-breeding birds roost in the bay itself. So you can see huge flocks stretching for absolutely miles from the hotel. We're very, very likely to see humpbacks from the hotel as well. It's near enough a given. And then depending on the timings, we've got a good chance of seeing southern right whales as well, bottlenose dolphins from our hotel room too. These are Cape fur seals. So this picture was taken on a boat trip actually to the aptly named Seal Island, but we'll see them right along the coast as well, even from the hotel too. And where we're staying, we're in walking distance of the Boulders Beach penguin colony. So this is the largest mainland colony of African penguins. It's about 1,000 pairs. So we'll wander down there at our leisure. And it's all super accessible. So we're walking distance from the hotel in this particular photo. It's really good for birding. So we'll be looking for some mouse birds and Cape robin chat, other nice things, crowned cormorants, African oyster catcher. And also here we're in the Cape Floral Kingdom, so about 60% of all the plants here are endemic. It's got a huge amount of diversity in a very small area, and we'll also take the opportunity to go to Kirsten Botanic Garden as well. So here we've got a King Protea with a Cape Sugarbird on top. That's one of the only two families that's endemic to Southern Africa. You can see that it's all covered in pollen and having a good old feast there. So finally, I'm going to mention a tour that is not a go slow trip, and people sometimes ask me why. So during the season that we run Gambia tours, I wouldn't say that every trip we get the feedback, but definitely a couple of them each year, people come back and say, this should be a go slow holiday. And yeah, fair enough, it could well be because it's got lovely direct flights. There's no time zone changes, so we're at the same time zone as the Gambia, which makes it nice and easy. It's a lovely destination during our winter. The season for the Gambia is from the very end of October through to early April. And we run our Gambia in Style tour from November through to early April, basically through the winter, a tour a month. So yeah, nice, easy direct flights, very short transfer the other end, about 40 minutes, single centre holiday, lovely lodge, really easy walking, short morning and afternoon excursions, plenty of downtime during the day. So it fits perfectly into the go slow criteria. It was just already in existence, and we don't really felt the need to rebrand it. But I thought it was well worth raising at this time because it does suit really nicely. So this is where we're staying. This is Mandina Lodges. Really beautiful architecture, really thoughtfully designed. It's an eco lodge, so there's no aircon in your lodges or anything. They're designed with these really high roofs so that you don't need to use aircon. There's only 9 individual lodges, which are some of them based on the river, some of them are based in the forested area, in the mangrove. It's got this huge freeform swimming pool, an outdoor covered restaurant, and then a bar looking over the mangrove area. So it's really an absolutely delightful place to stay. These are the floating lodges, so there's a bit of an upgrade to pay for these ones. They're really lovely. You don't feel like you're wobbling about on water if you're staying in a floating lodge. They're very, very stable. You wouldn't know once you're inside that you're on the water. The most you notice really is that sometimes when you walk in, you're going slightly up your gangplank, and sometimes you're going slightly down. That depends on the tides of the river, of course. But yeah, they're really lovely, and you can sit on your own personal terrace and watch the kingfishers going up and down the river, watch all the bird life. So they're really lovely. This is the inside of a jungle lodge. These are the ones these are the standard lodges, which are just the normal price, set in amongst all the trees. They're all like this with these huge high ceilings, massive king size, super king size perhaps beds. They're really, yeah, thoughtfully designed and a really nice place to stay. And we're just in the one lodge for the week. And then most days we're heading out from our lodge. We'll take an early morning walk out. We will go get up, have just a biscuit and a cup of tea, and then go on our morning excursion, either using these canoes, these boats, or we'll go for a walk from the hotel, or we'll perhaps go for a bit of a boat ride, and then go for a little walk, and then boat back again. We'll have brunch, and then really from end of brunch through to when it's cooled down again in the later afternoon, the time is yours to do what you wish. So you can pot around, read a book, do some birding around the lodge. You can sit around the bar and look over the mangroves. It's just really lovely and relaxing place to stay. So we'll do that 4 of the 6 full days that we're there, and then the other 2 days we'll go on for slightly longer day trips. We'll have a decent breakfast and then head off and explore some of the best bird reserves within the local vicinity. So not more than an hour's drive away, but just get us out and explore a few more of the areas, and then head back sometime in the afternoon. So there's some really lovely birding to be done. Great for kingfishers if you're into your kingies. Pied kingfisher here, giant kingfishers we'll see, malachite kingfisher of course down there. Lots of herons, we'll see lots of western reef herons, perhaps might spot white-backed night heron, which is the one at the top there. We'll see Goliath herons too, the one at the bottom. In fact, I think when I went to visit Mandina, I stayed in a floating lodge, and the first night I had this really weird banging noise in the middle of the night. I couldn't really work out what it was. And I mentioned it to the lodge owner the next day. She's like, oh yeah, that's just a Goliath heron knocking out a fish on your deck. Like, oh right, now I know. So if you hear that, just in a floating lodge and you hear a big crashing noise in the night, you'll know it's your local Goliath heron. We'll see African darters, we'll see long-tailed cormorants, and you can just observe them really easily as you're floating down the river in the little boats. There's lots of Guinea baboons around. The poor lodge staff spend most of their lives trying to keep the baboons in check, whilst our groups are busy enjoying watching them and photographing them. In fact, I think they've made some good progress because they haven't been able to be open all this year, of course. So they've been baboon proofing some of the bathrooms and the roof terraces and the like, trying to keep them in check. Along the river, we'll find Senegal thickney. We'll see spur-winged lapwings. For your average British birder, the Gambia is really lovely at this time of year because you'll also see lots of familiar faces like greenshank and wimbles and bar-tailed godwits, these sorts of things. And the walking's easy, just really leisurely paced, nice and flat. Because we're going out first thing in the morning and in the late afternoon, it's not too hot. And yeah, we'll take our time, get the scopes out. The lodge, we have UK leaders that go with us. I mean, the lodge has got 6 local naturalist guides that are based there full time, and a couple of them will come out each time with us as well. So lots of expertise in the mix. And I just found that having gone straight from, I went in December, so from pretty bleak British winter time, you arrive in the Gambia and it's just the first walk you do is just like an onslaught to the senses. It's a complete kaleidoscope of colour. So we're seeing, here we've got an African golden oriole, bearded barbets, this beautiful Abyssinian roller, beautiful sunbird, this is a yellow-crowned gonelek, little bee-eater. There's just so much to see and everything's so beautiful. You feel like you're in a totally different place, or you are in a different place. Red-cheeked cordon bleu and these little red-billed firefinches. I think it's a really good option as well if you have never been to Africa and fancy kicking off some African birding as well. It's a really nice spot. And I always think it's really worthwhile getting yourself in position with a nice mocktail or a gin tonic in the middle of the afternoon around the pool, and you can watch these beautiful white-throated beaters, which all come and dive from and swoop around the pool, having a good old afternoon drink. So that is where I'm going to wrap things up. I think you probably all had enough of my voice by now. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to have 10 minutes now to go and top up your glasses, top up your wine, get another beer, cup of tea, get some nibbles, and we'll be back at 8:25 on the dot, at which point I will hand over to my colleagues, Andy, who's going to take you to Spain, followed by Dan, who's going to take you around some of our go slow trips on the British Isles. So we'll see you shortly. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back everybody. I hope you've topped up your drinks and are ready to go again. So I'm going to hand over to Andy now, who's going to take us off to Spain. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Kerrie. And good evening, everybody, from my house in North Hampshire, just on the outskirts of Basingstoke. It's been a wet and dreary day here down south. I don't know how it's been where you are. But we're all clamouring to get back out there, and sifting through my photos today and listening to that lovely soothing music there does lift the spirits, as some of you have been saying in the comments. In fact, I'm going to take some credit for the idea to put some music on in interval. I said very early on in this process, let's have some nice local music throughout this roadshow. I think it was on the second or third evening though. I picked some pretty horrific Albanian folk music on our Eastern European evening, and the next day all of my Naturetrek colleagues absolutely slated me for my taste in music. So I handed the baton straight over to Sarah and Kerrie, and since they've been doing a wonderful job. I hope they've been keeping you entertained with some nice soothing music in the interval. So I'm going to take you across to the Iberian Peninsula now, or actually out into the Balearic Islands. For the first half of my presentation. Here's Mallorca, over in the Mediterranean, to the eastern mainland Spain, sandwiched between Ibiza and Mallorca. We'll take a look at our Go Slow offering there, and then for the latter half of my talk, we're going to move back into mainland Spain and right down here in the southwest of Spain, south of Seville, where we'll explore the Cota Doñana, and then we'll move up to the Sierra de Andújar, up here between Córdoba and Linares. But first of all, let's head over to Mallorca, almost the perfect Go Slow nature destination. And I guess when package holidays first kicked off in the UK in the late 1950s and 1960s, Mallorca, Palma de Mallorca was one of the first destinations. The airport's down here in the west of the island. And if your likes include all day British breakfasts and tabloid newspapers and dancing the night away in a boozy environment, then your perfect destination is just around the coast here, Magaluf. But I guess very few of you, if anyone, on tonight's webinar likes that kind of holiday. So what we do on our visits to Mallorca is whisk you up into the much quieter northeast of the island, just south here of Porteous. And our lovely hotel is nestled in the bay here, in easy striking distance of most of Mallorca's best birding habitats. So we have here lots of the ingredients for a perfect go slow holiday, whether you want to fly direct from Aberdeen or Manchester or Exeter or Bristol or wherever. There will be a direct flight down to Palma, and we'll be happy to lay that on for you and help coordinate logistics at the other end. As I say, we're up at Puerto Pollença. Here's our hotel here, just in the bay. It's a lovely setting. We have the Alpujarreta marshes here behind the hotel. So if you want to get up early morning and do a pre-breakfast stroll with the leaders, there's a lovely pathway which leads out into the marsh here with hides. So there's lovely pre-breakfast birding opportunities. Over to the left, we have the Formentor Peninsula, and over to the left behind the aerial photographer, we've got the Tramontana Mountains. So everything is within easy striking distance as we nestle in for 7 nights at the same comfortable base. The Port Blue Pollença Club isn't in many ways the typical Naturetrek holiday. Many of you would have enjoyed a typical Naturetrek European holiday with us in the past, using a traditional family hotel, a family-run mountain inn with perhaps up to 15 or 18 rooms with local cuisine and a nice quiet atmosphere. But such hotels don't really exist on Mallorca. So here is a bit of an exception. We've chosen quite a large holiday complex right on the coast in a lovely setting. In July and August, it'll be very busy with families with young children. But in a shoulder season when we're here, mid to late April and again in September, the hotel's pretty quiet. It's just populated by ramblers and cyclists and fitness fanatics and bird watchers, plus the odd golfer. So it's a really good base. And this kind of hotel really suits people who like to come back in a mid-afternoon for a cup of tea or coffee, a swim in the pool. And particularly if you have a friend or a partner who isn't so much into the wildlife and welcomes a day off just to have a spa treatment or just to read a book around the pool. It's that kind of very peaceful, tranquil base. So that's our base for this holiday in Mallorca, and we'll head out each day, as I say, an optional pre-breakfast walk, a breakfast in the hotel out at 9 o'clock-ish, and then we'll have a full morning in the field with a picnic lunch, lots of local cheeses and salads and cherries and fresh bread, etc. And one of the sites that's well known in Mallorca, right from when birding groups first started visiting in the late 1960s, is Kerrie Valley up in the north of the island. It's a lovely walk, not too strenuous. We go at a gentle pace. Some really good birds around, together with some good flowers, especially in the springtime, and butterflies too. And we'll just have a lovely day exploring the valley and some of the avian highlights, which will hopefully include things like seal bunting, and some of those wonderful classic Mediterranean species. The hoopoe here, of course. The wryneck will be passing through or freshly arrived from Africa in mid-April. And we'll spend some time scanning both for raptors and for a very special bird that we hope to see up here in the Kerrie Valley, and that's this one, the Balearic warbler, quite similar to a Dartford warbler or a Marmora's warbler, and that's one of the specialities of the island. But flicking through these slides today, I could almost smell that garing or macquarie vegetation in my nostrils and those clear blue skies and that lovely dry heat of the Mediterranean when you're flying from the UK. It really takes me back there. One of the other areas that we'll go out and explore over the course of a full day is the rocky and quite dramatic Formentor Peninsula, up to the north of our hotel. So a very short drive up here. And we'll spend the day driving and gently walking along here, stopping at odd viewpoints. Sometimes the weather's really hot and sunny, and it's suntan, sun cream type weather with flat blue seas. To get some decent sea watching here though, it's actually more favourable to have a chop, and that's when we might be lucky enough to see things like Balearic shearwater off to the left there, or Scopolis shearwater, which was recently split from Kerrie shearwater on the right there, but they will normally only be closer into shore when conditions are a bit rougher. Gliding past the cliffs is another specialities, the Eleonora's falcon, a magnificent raptor, this one. Not only can we see them along the cliffs at Formentor, but sometimes even hawking for dragonflies over the marsh at the back of our hotel. So a lovely bird to look out for, that one. In recent years, I think Mallorca has become a favourite destination for ultra athletes. So hardcore triathlon and ultra marathon sport fanatics. This is a great playground for outdoor training, be it a long distance footpath over the mountain summits, which go up to about 1,500 meters, or maybe getting your swimming kit on and a triathlon bike out. So we will see quite a few athletes up here in the mountains training. But needless to say, we're not anywhere near as energetic on our go slow holidays, but we will come up here for the day primarily for the raptors and a short mooch along the shores of Cuba Reservoir. And in the skies, as we glance upwards, we'll be looking for things like booted eagle, here in its pale form. Sometimes you see them with the dark plumage, the so-called melanistic form, when they almost look like a buzzard. But a booted eagle in the pale phase like this is one of the most easily recognizable raptors in European skies. And Cinereous vulture, or black vulture. These have really struggled over recent decades, but that's it. Up here in the Tramontana Mountains, they are doing reasonably well, and we will see them during the course of the week, plus possibly Egyptian vultures overhead as well. So a really nice mix of birds in this classic Mediterranean destination. 45 minutes to an hour south of our hotel, we go down one day to explore some of the old disused salt pans. This gives us access to a different type of habitat and more classic Mediterranean birding. Bee eaters, black-winged stilts, and if we don't see these Audouin's gulls on the salt pans, we'll see them nearby at a rocky promontory, another speciality of the Mediterranean area. So all in all, a wonderful destination, either end of the shoulder seasons, April, September, lovely climate, very little driving compared to some holidays, just a short transit from the airport, direct flights, flexible itinerary, leaders that know the the plants and butterflies as well as the birds, and a lovely, relaxed, convivial week away together. And like I say, it was one of the first birding destinations to appear in fledgling Natural History Tour Company brochures in the late 1960s. And here we are in 2021, and the destination's still going strong. Let's swing over to mainland Spain now, and a bit as Kerrie did with her Gambia presentation, I'm encroaching upon a Go Slow evening here with a talk on a tour which actually isn't in our Go Slow portfolio. It could very well be. The reason it isn't is simply because it's a 2-centre holiday. And when we mapped out our criteria for Go Slow holidays, we did say to ourselves, look, these are going to be single-centre holidays. Once people arrive at a lodge or a hotel, we want them to unpack and feel at home for a number of consecutive nights without having the upheaval of packing up and moving on. But so many of you have said to me, look, you're covering Spain over 3 evenings during this roadshow, but why aren't you covering the Lynx tour? I got to thinking, well, I've got to get this in somewhere. And because it's a tour which is a gentle pace, not much walking and no rugged terrain at all, I thought I'd spend a few minutes tonight covering what we do on our very popular Realm of the Lynx tour. I led what we can ascertain to be the first ever commercial lynx watching holiday back in 2006. I had seen lynx before then. I led a series of Naturetrek tours in Cota Doñana down here in the south of Spain from 1999 to 2002. During that time, I had 2 sightings of lynx just by accident. And mainly it was just an upright tail disappearing off into the scrub. But come 2006, we made some very good contacts in the area. And we thought a lynx watching holiday would be a viable proposition. Back in 2006, the lynx numbers were really in dire straits. You can see here in black the presence of breeding Iberian lynx in 2003, and the progress that was made until, well, 5 years ago in 2016. You can see there EU money's been pumped into lynx conservation down in Andalusia. And a really dedicated team of Spanish conservationists have been working hard on lynx conservation, and numbers have bounced back dramatically in recent years. And knowing how desperate the situation was when I led our first tour in 2006, it's fantastic to see the progress made since. The base in Doñana, Cota Doñana, is this rather bizarre village of El Rocío, sandy streets and up against the side of the marshes here. It's almost like the set of a Wild Western film. Here's our hotel, the Toruño, right on the edge of the marshes. I don't know if you can make out these rather tall wooden structures here, just outside the restaurant, but those are for if you're strolling past on your horse in the evening and you fancy a quick pint without disembarking, then those are special tables constructed just for the villagers. Dotted around the outside of the outskirts of El Rocío, white storks are present in numbers, breeding when we're here in the early spring and early summer. I don't know if you can make out here in the lower reaches of the white stork nest, there are many kind of sub-nests, and the culprits there are these Spanish sparrows, which like to nest in the lower echelons of the white stork nests year after year. If you're interested in Doñana and learning a bit more about it, maybe considering a trip there at some stage, I can really recommend this book on the right-hand side by Guy Mountfort. It's a great portrayal of the early explorations of Doñana. Guy Mountfort led 3 expeditions from the mid-1950s onwards. And as I touched on with Mallorca, this was in the fledgling days of package holidays, and certainly before anybody started to travel on holiday in pursuit of wildlife, which is a notion we take for granted these days. But when Guy Mountfort came back from Doñana with his observations and wrapped them up in this book, it was as if it had been exploring, the backside of Papua New Guinea. Such were the wonderful observations which were chronicled for the first time in these expeditions. And I think we can probably, to a large extent, thank the existence of Doñana nowadays to those expeditions, because a decade later in 1967, WWF got together with the Spanish government and declared Doñana to be the first ever European national park. These days it's encircled by Seville, busy roads either side, and huge greenhouses and strawberry plantations. So it is absolutely vital that the park remains well policed in order to conserve the very important wildlife there. The view from the balcony of the hotel looks out across the marshes. This photo doesn't really do it justice. These marshes are thronged with waders in the late winter and early spring. The wild horses there grazing, and we're busy looking for birds like curlew sandpiper in breeding plumage there, and spoonbill also freshly into its breeding habitat. Nightingales will be singing from every bush. And in the quieter regions of the park, away from the village, some of the more secretive and special denizens of the national park would be things like marble duck and the pin-tailed sandgrouse. To get into the national park itself, we need to team up with a local outfitter, a local birdwatching company who are licensed to take us inside the national park and to take us in four-wheel drive jeeps. Back in the 1980s, British birdwatchers used to have quite a bad reputation in Doñana for driving in their old beat-up Ford Cortinas, only to get stuck in the sand, have to pay a local farmer to drag them out. So it's much more regulated these days. We do have to team up with our local guides to take us in the park. And what we're doing here shortly after dawn is examining the tracks for Iberian lynx footprints. The guides take great delight in pointing these out to us. And everyone's heart will start beating a bit more quickly, and we'll all be glued to the misty tracks ahead to try to get a glimpse of the lynx itself. And you never know, just around the next corner, you might get a spellbinding view like this of one of the world's rarest cats. It's a magical experience. You're surrounded by open grassland, stone pine forest, and the marshes on one side. Iberian rabbits will be the main food source of the lynx. And back in the early 2000s, we reckoned for every 24 hours spent in lynx habitat, we might be lucky enough to see a lynx. The regularity of those sightings has gone up over the years. And we very rarely miss them on dedicated lynx watching holidays. Some of these photos are some of the more better kind of representations of the encounters we have. Other groups will get more of a flashy look as they disappear off in the undergrowth. But just a couple of slides here to show you a bit about the lynx conservation efforts. The population of the lynx is split really between Doñana and the Sierra de Andújar, the other side of Seville. The Doñana population is particularly hemmed in, as I say, by these huge areas of agriculture and a network of roads. It's very hard for growing lynx to disperse out of their parents' territories, and this is where we encounter roadkills and other problems. And the Doñana population itself isn't big enough to self-sustain. There's not a big enough gene pool there. So what the lynx conservation work has been centered on is bringing down males from Andújar and mating them with Doñana lynx, and mixing up the gene pool, raising the baby lynx in captivity, and releasing them back off into the wild when they're strong enough to be released. We can't see this centre. You can probably imagine it. It's under lock and key. It's vital they keep disease and viruses out of the centre, but they've been doing a wonderful job over the past 10 to 15 years. Once released, the adult lynx will be radio tracked like this, and it's great to see money being pumped into trying to keep lynx safe from the roads. That's the biggest problem we have in Doñana. So under some of the main arteries now, you'll find these lynx tunnels every few hundred yards, which other wildlife such as wild boar also use. And like I say, on a red letter day, you just get these magnificent encounters in early morning sunlight, the wildflowers of Doñana framing this magnificent cat, and you really do get some exceptional sightings and encounters. We don't just explore Doñana. We feel, and always have done since 2006, that we want to take people to the two contrasting lynx habitats. So after just 2 nights in Doñana and 3 different visits into the national park, we will drive for 3.5 hours or so to the other side of Seville and up into the mountains to Andújar Natural Reserve. And the landscape here is very different. There is a large reservoir up to my left here, and there's a river flowing down the valley below my feet. But essentially, we're looking out over quite dry Mediterranean scrub here. And the nature of the lynx watching is quite different. In Doñana, we're going around in Land Rovers and safari vehicles, maybe taking very short leg stretches, but essentially any lynx we'll see will be from the vehicle. Whereas here, we're getting up early, driving up to a panoramic viewpoint before breakfast, lining up our telescopes on tripods, and we're doing really a painstaking search of this Mediterranean scrub. And if we see any kind of movement, we'll zone in and see whether we've struck gold with a sighting with lynx. All around us, we have signs in Spanish to remind us to keep our speed down. This is the zone of the lynx. 9 times out of 10, you zoom in on a movement in a scrub and foliage, and it'll be a flock of azure-winged magpies or a wild boar or a red deer like this one. But when you do zoom in and kind of clock that you're onto a lynx, your heart does miss a beat, and you try to get your fellow group members around the scope as quickly as possible, give directions to people so everybody can enjoy some sightings. And the beauty of a long distance encounter like this, although the lynx are rarely in frame fitting pose, the beauty is you can see them go around their natural habitats and display natural behavior, because we're such a distance away. They don't realize they're being watched. So often we can get some quite long viewings, up to half an hour sometimes. We might even see last year's off down on the rocks below on the river, just below us. But that sums up our Iberian lynx holiday for you. It's a great trip, one of the world's rarest felines, and to be in the knowledge that they're doing so well after generally being on the verge of extinction in the early 2000s is very heartening indeed. So I'll leave you on that note. Drop us a question or a comment if you'd like me to cover any topics after Dan finishes, but I will hand over to Dan now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'd absolutely love to see an Iberian lynx. It must be so exhilarating to see one out in the field there. Just bear with me a moment whilst I share my screen with you. So as you know, my name is Dan, and I'm joining you this evening from the edge of the New Forest, where it's still pretty dank actually. Very much looking forward to spring arriving down here. I joined Naturetrek in 2019, and in the Naturetrek office, I look after the herpetology tours. So these are the tours that go in search of some of the world's most amazing reptiles and amphibians, from extremely vividly coloured poison arrow frogs in the jungles of South America to seeing chameleons on 3 different continents and everything in between. In the Naturetrek office, I also work in the operations team that look after 3 of our tours to the Go Slow tours to the British Isles, and tonight I'm going to share some of those with you. So the first tour I'm going to talk about this evening is our Go Slow in Jersey offering, which I started last year. It's a place that's that I know very well, having lived on Jersey for a number of years. So I've really enjoyed the wildlife in there. There's some great things to see. So this is a new offering, and then hope to get the tour away this year. And it's a timed for May, and it's a 5-day tour. So just to get our bearings a bit, I'm sure most of you are familiar. Jersey is 87 nautical miles from mainland British Isles, but just 12 nautical miles from the coast of France. So for the naturalists, that makes it a really interesting place, especially a more mild climate. Makes for a lot of different species than you find on the mainland British Isles. So as standard, we take a flight from London into St. Peter on the west coast of Jersey, direct flight, of course. and scheduled for an hour, but quite often you can get over in half an hour or so. If you prefer, there is a ferry offering as well that we can arrange for you. That will go from Portsmouth or Poole, and either way, the hotel is just 10 or 15 minutes away from either the port or the airport. In Jersey, we'll be based wonderful St. Brellard's Bay, really lovely bay, and actually in the top 3 bays in the beaches in the British Isles. So it's a lovely place to be located, and this southwest corner is some of my favourite areas of Jersey. As standard, we'll use the ocean view rooms, and they have a lovely balcony that overlooks this nice quiet bay. The restaurant overlooks the bay too, and here we'll enjoy some lovely food. Jersey's really good if you're into food. I'm sure you know the Jersey milk is exceptional, and all the things that come from that, the Jersey butter, Jersey cream, makes for really delicious cuisine. And of course, seafood's excellent, and a lot of produce grown on the island, so very fresh, really nice food. There's a terrace where you can read a book or have a lovely Jersey cream tea, or if you'd like to paddle in the sea or just walk along the beach, it's all right there for you. We have full use of the spa facilities while we're there as well. So there's a swimming pool, steam room, sauna, and even a sleep room and a relaxation room. So it really is everything for a lovely go slow holiday. Outside, there's really nice gardens to enjoy where you can read your book or just sit and then enjoy, and especially at this time of year, nice to top up your vitamin D levels, which I think we're all struggling with at the moment. So it's lovely parks here to see in really close proximity to the hotel. And if you, as Kerrie mentioned earlier, if you'd like to join a go slow holiday with perhaps someone that's not so much into wildlife, this is a really good option, because not only can you easily get into the St. Helier, the capital, and from there you can get many places on the island. It was also, we're right here at low tide, you can get easily onto the coastal footpath, which has lovely walks. And in fact, I've walked the entire coast path of Jersey in one go, the whole 45 miles, and it took a good part of 13 hours or so, and I absolutely loved it. It's beautiful scenery. Just very difficult when I got back to get up my staircase. I had to drag myself up. It was, my legs had gone at that point, but it's a lovely, lovely coastal path. So our first excursion out will be in St. Juan's Bay, which is on this western coast here, as you can see. Here, the tour is really timed around 2 sort of mini wildlife spectacles that occur in Jersey. And one of them is the flowering of 60,000 orchids in Le Noir Pré, which is an orchid field, really well managed, mown and grazed by Jersey cows late in the year. So it's been really well managed, and the result of that is fantastic orchids. And one of them is the special, of course, Jersey orchid, which is found on the continent, but not on the mainland. Yeah, the wildlife here is brilliant too. Lots of dragonflies, damselflies, and butterflies, and you can often hear Chetty's warblers just in nearby fields. And even if you're really lucky, you can hear bearded tits from this field. The other mini wildlife spectacle here is, of course, the migration of birds, which at this time of year is really excellent through the Channel Islands. They're in a really good strategic position for birds to stop en route to their destinations, and any one time you can have numerous cuckoos, golden orioles as well. As often reports at this time of year when we visit in May of only birds, but also singing males as well. Of course, we'll have eyes to the sky for things like honey buzzards, which do pass overhead, and of course the Channel Islands, where where the famous lammergeier of last year was first spotted nearby Alderney. So very good chance we have there of being some of the first in the British Isles to get eyes on the lammergeier again this year. And butterflies too, swallowtail can be seen at this time of year. Turtle doves, again, you can have a number on the island, and again, they can be singing here. And an amazing sighting I had in 2014 was a great spotted cuckoo. Yeah, fantastic on this western side of the island. And of course, it stirred up a lot of interest, and the entire population of Jersey that were interested in birds came down, and there was 8 of us there watching this magnificent bird being mobbed by marsh harrier. Right nearby we have St. Juan's Pond. It's a lovely site to visit for birding. There's a newly constructed wetland centre, and from there you can see all the usual suspects. You can't fail to miss marsh harrier there, and many waders and ducks such as this lovely shoveler, and of course always a chance of something more unusual turning up. We'll head south along this western coast towards the sand dunes, which is another really special habitat. You can find wonderful flowers such as these dwarf pansies, which are again not found in the UK, and the thrift will also be in lovely bloom at this time. Just wonderful scenes. Just a 15-minute walk that I had along this west coast. You can easily see, as I said, the Jersey orchid, and flowering by the side of the road, you can see the bee orchid. And I photographed this, also this lizard orchid, which at this time of year isn't in full flower, but it's in this lovely stage that I really like, where almost to me looks like a chameleon's tail there. I think the Latin name refers to this as more like a tongue than a tail. So the tongue of the lizard. And then after exploring this lovely coastal region, we'll stop at this headland here for a lovely picnic lunch. And you have to excuse my friend's dog Otto here. It's the only photo I had which showed good views of the bay, but this is later in the year. Of course, it's a bit hazy and the vegetation has gone over a bit, but you can see it's lovely views up here for a picnic. And it's also a wonderful place to find invertebrates if you're into invertebrates or just appreciate any wildlife like me. This is a lovely spot, and you can see green hair street. Find thrift clearwing feeding on the thrift, and forester as well. Some lovely day flying moths. And it's a really good place actually to find these absolute jewels, the cuckoo wasps. Just absolutely stunning little creatures, and you can see them here on the sandy paths. And I've seen a number of species in Jersey, and this is one of them. And probably my favourite species on Jersey is the green lizard. At this time they'll be looking really stunning in their full breeding plumage or breeding colours with blues and yellows and greens, just really vivid and lovely. And this is one of the best places on the island to find them. This area here, we drop down into Petty Port where the lizards are, and it's a good place to find waders, and especially good for shelduck, which will often have chicks at this time. In the afternoon, we'll head over to the east of the island to Grouville. Here there's a great chance to see sail buntings, which did disappear from Jersey not too long ago, but they have come back and recovered, and the winter feeding program is helping them quite significantly, and we'll find sort of up to 4 pairs there now. Lovely bird. And again, the botany on this side of the island is great too, and we'll find this small flowered catchfly, and we'll be joined in these sites as well by a local botanist. So we'll have a really good head start of what's in flower when we arrive. On the island, we'll be keeping an eye out for red squirrel and short-toed tree creeper, which is just a vagrant on the British mainland but breeds here in Jersey. And Jersey, especially on this western side, you just have lovely sunsets, especially if it's mostly clear, just lovely sunsets every evening. On the next day, we'll head over again to the eastern coast, where we'll get to St. Catherine's Breakwater, and here we'll get onto a privately chartered rib, and we'll head out onto the sea and head towards another island, Herm. So just to get our bearings again, Herm is nestled up here between Guernsey and Sark, and it's just about a 40 to 50-minute journey. We'll be aiming to get good views near Herm of puffins, so that's one of the main reasons for the journey. They can be seen puffins from the mainland, from Jersey, but they're often really distant views, and there's just a couple of pairs there, so it's very difficult. Much better numbers in Herm. And on the journey, we'll be looking out for bottlenose dolphins, which can be quite commonly found here, and seabirds. Really nice crossing over across the channel. And Herm itself is lovely, almost tropical looking seas. Of course, no cars on Herm and no airport either. Just a really peaceful place to be. Again, along with the many migrant species that I mentioned for Jersey, of course possible in Herm at this time as well. There'd be a great chance to see wheatears, which are very commonly passing through here. And other really interesting invertebrates like wool brown, which is more frequently seen in the Channel Islands than in the UK or on the British mainland. It's just a really lovely place to be, especially at this time of year. We'll enjoy the day here. Next day, we'll explore both the south and the north coast of Jersey, where we'll look out for some really special species too. So we'll be just above Portlet at Portlet Common, again a lovely quiet area of Jersey, and here we have a really good chance of Dartford warbler and common species like stone chat, but also a really good place in the migration to see redback shrike. This is where they tend to be if they come into Jersey, and just lovely habitats to explore. And again, really nice invertebrates, and you'll see the lizards around this point as well. And here's showing the minstrel bug, or less formally the AC Milan bug as it's sometimes known. On the north coast, we'll look for red-billed choughs, which we'll have a very good chance to see. They were reintroduced to Jersey in 2013 after not becoming extinct there locally in 1900 or so. And it's just wonderful to be up there and watch their acrobatic displays, along with fulmars, which I think is a very underrated species. And again, just lovely to be on that north coast and watching the fulmars in torpedo and sort of from the cliffs. A great place too to spot peregrine falcons, which quite commonly seen on the rocks up there. And in the afternoon, for anyone that wants, I'll be more than happy to take people into St. Helier, where you can visit the lovely old market where you can purchase Jersey products, lovely Jersey black butter, and try Jersey Wonder and some other specialities, and spend a £1 note. So plenty to do in St. Helier in the free time for those who wish. If you would like to stay in Jersey an extra few days, there's lots to see, and we'd be happy to make the arrangements with the hotel, and lots of historical interest. Heading to the furthest point south in the British Isles, to the Minkies, is a really nice excursion. There you'll see a good place to find terns, and species like purple sandpiper can be found out here. And again, it's almost like you're in the tropics with this lovely sea. It's very easy as well to connect from Jersey, direct ferry over to St. Malo, where you can have lunch in this lovely walled city. And Another place which I sort of fell in love with whilst living in the Channel Islands was Sark. And I set up 2 tours here, one that goes in May and one that goes in September, with a slightly different focus on each, which I'll run through in this short section. So it's a 6-day tour, and you'll fly into Guernsey, again from London, or regional connections we can arrange to, if you'd prefer. And from St. Peter Port here, it's very easy to get down to the harbour, and then we take a boat over to Sark, and it'd be certainly worth having your binoculars at hand for seabirds, and again another chance at dolphins. We'll arrive into Crewe Harbour, and from here we can have our luggage taken up to the hotel, and we can begin our excursions when we set foot. Of course, in Sark there's again no cars and no airport, so it's just a lovely, peaceful place to be. Again, a similar coastline to Jersey, beautiful blue seas, and like a world away from anywhere, really. This is the most sort of traffic you'll see on Sark. Here's the bridge. This leads from the main island of Sark over to Little Sark, where we'll be based. And in Little Sark, we'll be based in the Sublonnery, a lovely hotel with lovely gardens, and it's just, as I say, a world away from anywhere, really, especially on this area. We'll be lucky to see anyone. Each evening we'll enjoy a lovely 5-course meal for dinner. And the habitats here, there's lots of hedgerows to explore, and vineyards, and the truth is that the natural history of Sark is very little studied. So we've got a real chance to add to the knowledge of wildlife on Sark during both of our visits in May and September. And then we'll be led by a Channel Islands expert, John Horton, who also leads our Alderney trips. Again, there'll be a good chance for these southern species like Dartford warbler and silver-studded blue in May, and there's a 300-strong colony of guillemots here as well that will just be coming together in May time, and we'll take a boat out to enjoy them with great views, and we'll hope to see puffins on the water here as well. And of course, every chance again of bottlenose dolphins passing Sark. And again, we'll have eyes to the sky with a hope of seeing a raptor, whether it be honey buzzard or lammergeier or something else. And so a lovely time in September for Queen of Spain fritillaries, which can be found here. Again, a rare species on the UK, but we'll certainly hope to see one of these. And wryneck, as Andy showed in his talk, wryneck's certainly possible in Sark at this time of year, and this individual was actually ringed by the tour leader in Alderney, a wonderful species that we should have a great chance to see during the September tour. Botany will be exciting. As I said, not a lot is known about the natural history of Sark, but a species like autumn squeal we'll hope to see, and we'll search the formal gardens here for butterflies and birds, and this is almost the city in Sark, so this is as close to us as a city as we'll get in Sark. And again, lovely sunsets, just such a peaceful atmosphere to be in. And one of the big draws in Sark is the night sky, which is it's actually declared the first international dark sky island because of the lack of light pollution, no airport, no cars. It's a wonderful place to just sit or lay back if you prefer, and just take in the wonder of the night sky. this is a photo I took during my last visit to Sark, and for me it just sums up what Sark is about. It's just such a still and serene place, and just a million miles away from the rigors of sort of modern day life that we have in the cities or anywhere on the mainland. It's just not like anywhere else I've been on earth, to be honest. And the peace and tranquility you get there is just, it's addictive, really. A beautiful place. And finally, this evening, I'll just cover our tour to Hampshire, which runs in June and July. It's a 4-day trip based in the heart of the South Downs National Park, between the south coast and London. And here we'll be based in, again, a lovely spa hotel with extensive grounds, over 160 acres we can explore. And as well as that, we'll take excursions out, and some of the excursions I'll briefly mention here. There's as well a really lovely swimming pool, which we'll have use of during our time. One of those excursions is to Fairsley Common, where there's wonderful bog habitat, home to a range of rare and interesting species, and this backs onto the heathland, and just enjoy wonderful walks where we can find excellent botany, like carnivorous plants like this Drosera rotundifolia, the round leaf sundew, and excellent birding here too, and a good number of the reptiles you can find here too. And hard to miss these common lizards which bask frequently on the boardwalk. But you can also find grass snake and adders and many others. It's really good too for dragonflies and damselflies, like this beautiful black darter. Also take an excursion up to Havant Thicket, where some of the highlights will be the purple hair streak, which the group are searching for in that photo, or the purple emperor, again wonderful special species that could be found here. Also take an excursion to Nor Hill, where botany is fantastic, and butterflies too. I hope to see orchids, and there's a good range of species here. Should see pyramidals and amongst many other species. And excellent day flying moths like cinnabars. On one of the evenings, we'll make an excursion near to the hotel for nightjars, so we'll have the opportunity to sit quietly in the evening and see if we can hear these magnificent birds chirring, or even on some of the tours they've heard wing clapping, so it's a really lovely experience. And on the way back to the hotel, you might even bump into one of these special creatures, a lovely glowworm, which was seen on the last trip. So really that was just a quick overview of the tours. I would encourage you to check our website, where you can find the full itineraries for these tours, and which will cover a bit more detail of what you might see and some of the excursions we'll take during the tours. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand back to Kerrie.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thanks to Andy before you. So we've got about 15-20 minutes now to answer any questions that you might have. So if you do have any, just pop them in the question answer box, and we'll take those questions and read them out and let you know what we think. In the meantime, I'm going to pick up a few of the questions that have popped up during the evening. Andy, there was a good one for you that I think others might be interested in. One from Joy asking about the best time of year to see a lynx, if there's a difference between the November and the March trips.
There's not a great deal of difference. When we first put this trip together in 2006, we went for September because we figured that's when the national park was driest and the lynx would be drawn to remaining waterholes, but it was still pretty hot at that time of year, and it was a difficult mission really outside of the dawn and dusk period. So I think over the years we've tended to zoom in on the late September, October, November window, all the way really through to February, and then the back end of the season in March. I think the best chances are probably fairly even through that period. My favourite time would be November-ish, but there's not much in it. And I think March, probably the chances tail off slightly, but then you've got nice warm sunshine and the arriving spring migrants. So it's a bit of a, weighing up there, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But through that entire period, you've got a very good chance.
Yeah, I co-led that trip for you, Andy, didn't I? Went 2 weeks after starting at Naturetrek back in 2012, and that was at September at the time. Yeah, we did well. We got a Lynx, but it was quite hard work, and we just had the one sighting. So yeah, sounds like moving it a bit later has done the trick there. I spotted a question within the chat from David, who asked whether it's possible to do our European tours by train. Yes, absolutely. So Andy, particularly, you've got quite a lot of Western European countries that actually use the Eurostar as part of the trip, don't you? To France, and we have others to Belgium and Netherlands and the likes. Where else do we go? All over, yeah. By ferry to Spain.
In France,
Yeah.
La Brenne in France, Belgium, Holland. But what we say to this question all the time is, where there's a will, there's a way. So someone wants to go to the realm of the Lynx by train. You can do it. It's going to cost a bit more money and take more time, but Eurostar to Paris, overnight sleeper to Madrid, and the Spanish high-speed rail network down to Cordoba or Seville. So it can be done, and we can help. And there's a fantastic website which came up in one of our earlier roadshows, isn't it? The Man in Seat 61 or something. I can't remember the name of the website. Yeah,
it's a good website, yeah.
But that's a great source of information.
I find quite a lot of people actually like the idea of going to Switzerland on the train. It fits nicely because then once you're in Switzerland, you're on the train still, so you can do the whole thing without setting foot in a car the entire time that you're away from the UK. And yeah, again, you do the Eurostar to Paris, you probably get the train from there to Lausanne and then carry on from there. So it works really nicely. What else have we got? Let's have a look. We've been asked about trips to Alderney. Dan, do we go to Alderney? Tell us all about the Channel Islands. You've covered Jersey obviously in great detail, but we have a few other trips, don't we, as well?
Yeah, it's a really popular tour, Alderney, actually in Andy's portfolio, but we're doing a few trips to different itineraries to Alderney, and also I believe a new tour, Herman Alderney. Perhaps Andy might be able to expand on that.
Yeah, the ingredients are very similar to the tours Dan's been talking about. We've been running tours to Alderney for at least 6 or 7 years now. And single centre base, flight from Southampton. And many of the characteristics that Dan's been talking about. I haven't been there myself, but several Naturetrek staff members have been. Report back very favourably, so it comes highly recommended. I think, in fact, some people have put in the chat, Go Slow in Alderney is excellent, did it in 2017, then returned there on my own the next 2 years, would have gone this year again, but COVID got in the way. So there's a recommendation for you. It's one of our most popular short haul holidays.
Thank you very much. One for you, Andy. Can you tag a city break in Seville with the Lynx trip?
Well,
you could probably add to that for pretty much every European tour as well whilst you're at it.
Yeah, yes. We do a lot of extensions in cultural capitals in Europe, be it Prague or Bucharest or Dublin or wherever. Seville's a popular one. I love Seville. I love the tapas bars, and I love a stroll around the cathedral, and I love a flamenco show at night. Wonderful place to spend 2 or 3 nights after a wildlife watching trip. And we can point in the direction of a couple of lovely hotels in historic Sevilla, fly you back 2 or 3 nights later, job done, easily done.
Yeah, make the most of your flight if you're taking it, extend your trip. Laura's asked about butterflies. I think Andy, you answered this one for me whilst I was speaking. I'm assuming that was to do the Swiss Alps, and yeah, I didn't include any butterfly pictures actually in my Swiss talk, and part of the whirlwind trip around all the go slow options. But yes, loads of butterflies in the Swiss Alps. We do a dedicated butterflies in the Swiss Alps holiday, where you will likely see perhaps 100 species during your week. And on the other tours where we're not really focusing on butterflies the whole time, you might see 60 or so species during your week. So yeah, it's a lot to go on. And a good question from Diane asked how many would be in a group. So this varies a lot by tour, but generally our maximum, if you're in the wide open spaces of the European Alps, that sort of setup, then 14 to 16 would be our maximum, with 2 leaders. There's some places where we'll restrict the group to a bit less, maybe to 10 or 12, depending on vehicle setup, or yeah, mostly based on vehicle sizes and the types of walks and things we're doing. But 16 is always our maximum. What else have we got here?
I'll pick up a question on Extremadura, Kerrie.
Yeah, go for it.
Come up quite a bit in the chat. A few of you have been there, recommended our trips there. Angus McGreedy most recently, not covered tonight, but thoroughly recommend Extremadura, great hotel. I did cover Extremadura earlier on in this roadshow. I think it was Western Europe Part 1. And all the recordings of our previous evenings are available on our website. So if you'd like me to talk, if you'd like to see me talking about Extremadura and the habitats we cover, some of you have asked tonight, do we go to Der Haase, which is a cork oak forest? We certainly do, together with all of the other habitats in Extremadura. So do go onto our website and you can find a recording of that talk.
There's a question just come up on the Q&A from Neil, due to go to the Bacoor in July. I think this is a question that others, there's lots of questions around this area that others might be interested in as well. He says, it's looking increasingly unlikely I'll be vaccinated by then. Depending on French travel rules, I might be refused entry. Can I switch my deposit to 2022? So there's lots, obviously, of unknowns at the moment for the travel industry, for us. About vaccination programs, how quickly we'll progress, how quickly the EU around the world will progress, when travel corridors might come back, if they'll come back. There's a lot of unknowns at the moment, and we don't know how that's all going to pan out. So if you are booked on a trip with us this year, in the summer, later in the year, we will keep in touch with you. We'll be in touch with you before your final balance payment is due, which is 10 weeks before the trip, update you at that point, outline your options. And if ultimately we have to cancel the tour because we can't go because of foreign travel advice, you will be entitled to a refund or to move your trip to a future date. Ahead of us cancelling the tour, we will be as flexible as possible. Now, there will be some tours where we have booked non-refundable flights already, which if they're still set to operate, then we'll have to have a look at that, what we can do about those. It might be that we can move them or get a voucher or something. So that could be a stumbling block, but we will be as flexible as possible. So we'll keep in touch with you. Just get in touch with the office if you're worried about your booking, and we'll have a chat about it and see what we can do. Any others in here I want to answer? Asked about, Esme asked about altitude in the Swiss Alps. So I've never come across any of our clients having actual altitude sickness on a tour in the Swiss Alps or any of our European Alps holidays. They're high, but they're not that high. You can feel breathless walking uphill, which we try and avoid. Even on our standard tours, we tend to take the trains up and walk down rather than hiking up hills. I've sometimes found I've got a headache on the first day, that sort of thing, but that's about as much as anyone really experiences. So not something to worry about. I think we're about there. Fine. If there's no more questions, feel free just to pop anything, last bits and bobs on the chat, on the question and answer box. We'll keep an eye on that just for a few more minutes. But otherwise, thank you very much for tuning in again this evening. Thank you to Dan and to Andy for your presentations. As Andy said just now, if you've missed any of our previous talks and would like to catch up, then they're all on the website. You can click on the main banner on our homepage. It'll take you to the whole lineup of talks, and then anything that's already happened, and you click on the link and use the password, and you can watch those back. And as I said before, there's more that you can sign up for. So we hope you'll join us again. We'd love your feedback. We're always happy to hear from you if you've got any comments, any suggestions, any destination requests. So info@naturetrek.co.uk. Do get in touch with us, and we do read every single email that you send to us. If you would like to book an Naturetrek speaker for your own natural history club or society, we love coming out to talk to you. At the moment, we're obviously doing that mostly on Zoom, or entirely on Zoom. But post-pandemic, we'll be delighted to get back in person and come out to meet you. So have a look on our homepage in the Book a Speaker section. You can see what talks we offer. Just get in touch with us and we can arrange a mutually beneficial, mutually convenient time for us to come and talk to your club or society. So that's it for us this evening. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. We'll stay on here just for a couple more minutes. We'll pick up the last couple of questions. Otherwise, good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.